Welcome to Every Bit of Happiness, given to you. In this heartfelt tale, we follow Diem Diem, a devoted single mother who, against all odds, finds herself face to face with Daniel Hayes, the man she once loved and the father of her child. As the past and present collide, the emotions that were buried deep within resurface, revealing secrets and untold stories. This journey explores forgiveness, family, and the power of second chances as love finds its way back into their lives. Will Diem Diem and Daniel be able to heal the wounds of the past and embrace the love they once shared? Stay tuned as we explore this emotional roller coaster of rediscovery and heartfelt connections.
My name is Lena Dawson, a comic artist and a single mother. Up until today, my son and I had been living a quiet, happy life together. But then, just earlier, I got a phone call from that man, and in an instant, our peace was shattered. I thought about running away with my child, but at this moment, my son is under his military training, completely in his grip. My son is 4 years old this year, just started preschool. At the beginning of the year, his school organized a so-called military boot camp, which honestly was just a gimmick to make parents pay extra. Still, the kids had fun, so I was happy to pay the fee. What I didn't expect was my son's biological father was stationed at that very military base. Thinking back to that man in my memories, the resemblance between father and son is shocking. No, they look exactly the same. I'm waiting for you at the base. I want to see you in 1 hour or else. That deep voice of Colin Westwood snapped me out of my memories and slammed me right back into this cruel reality. That or else of his, a blatant threat. My son is in his hands. What choice do I have? Even if I have to close my eyes and bite my tongue, I'll go. I can't abandon the child I gave birth to. Absolutely not. He's the only family I have, more important than my own life. After hanging up, I resigned myself to driving to the military base. As I stared at the gate, I couldn't help but sigh. After all the effort I put into staying away, how did he still find us? God really must have it out for me. I parked the car, asked around about Captain Westwood's office, and walked there slowly. As I raised my hand to knock, I realized it was trembling. My brain frantically began generating excuses I could throw at him. Knock, knock. Come in. Before I could even finish 2 knocks, Colin's voice cut through, even more commanding than over the phone. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. Hello, Mr. Westwood. I'm Eli's mother, Lena Dawson. May I ask what you needed to see me about? I'd already decided on the drive over. Pretend to not know him. No way Colin Westwood remembers who I am after all these years. When he heard my voice, Colin turned away from his computer and looked at me. The moment our eyes met, my heart skipped a beat. It's only been 5 years. How was he even more dangerous and handsome than before? I had to silently remind myself, stay calm. Don't let him see through you. Just play the stranger to the end. Colin glanced at me and gestured to the seat across from him. Have a seat. Thank you. I smiled and sat down casually, though inside I was panicking like mad. Time to strike first. Mr. Westwood, you called me earlier, but I'm still not quite sure what this is about. Could you explain? Books always say the calmer you act, the less suspicion you draw. Movies show people pulling this off all the time, so it has to work, right? Colin clicked his mouse a few times, then turned his computer screen toward me. Aren't you going to explain what's going on?
I looked at the screen. My son looked absolutely adorable. His only flaw? He looked way too much like Colin Westwood. Right after that, I carefully studied the screen again, then turned to look at Colin, trying to feign as much surprise as humanly possible. Mr. Westwood, my son looks so much like you. Oh wow, what a coincidence! There are really people in this world with no blood relation,
who can still look exactly alike. Incredible, really. The shock and excitement at this fate. I delivered it with award-worthy flair. Honestly, I should hand myself an Oscar right now for Best Actress in a Lead Role. Is that so? What an incredible coincidence. Colin replied softly, but the weight of it pressed down on me like a truck. But I'd already started lying. Backing out now would be death. Yes, an actual coincidence. Hard to believe, right? I even doubled down to show how sincere I was. He'll buy it, right? But right then, Colin let out a cold laugh. Lena Dawson, how long are you planning to keep lying? Did you think pretending not to know me would actually work? I froze when he said my name out loud. Colin knew me? No way. I was just a nobody back then. I was still hoping to bluff my way through, but he cornered me so thoroughly I had nowhere left to run. Lena Dawson, Finance Class 1, East Bridge University, Class of 2014. Want me to keep going? He furrowed his brows as he looked at me. I shook my head instinctively. That was too accurate. There was no denying it now. Of course I couldn't deny it. Pushing further would basically scream, I have something to hide. I pretended to take a better look at him, then widened my eyes and gasped in exaggerated realization, oh my God, you're Colin Westwood. I didn't even recognize you. You've changed so much. To be fair, he had changed. Older, more masculine now. But let's be honest, pretending I didn't recognize him, a total lie. Colin had one of those faces that you remember for life. But he didn't even blink at my fake surprise. In fact, he looked annoyed. So, now, can we talk about why your son looks exactly like me? His eyes locked on mine, probing, pressing, pure interrogation mode. Why can't we just move on from this topic already? Can't we just keep it casual, like friends? Why so invested? It's just a coincidence, seriously. We barely even talked in college. We definitely never dated. There's no way my kid is related to you. You can relax. I looked him straight in the eye, trying to summon every ounce of sincerity I could to sell my completely made-up story. Colin stared back at me, his face starting to twist with anger. Suddenly, he stood up, leaning in toward me. That handsome face zoomed in close, and then he gave me the coldest smirk. Lena Dawson, since you said it's a coincidence, then I'm sure you wouldn't mind if I took your kid for a DNA test, right?
Absolutely not. I blurted it out before I could stop myself. His tone triggered such a defensive reaction, it only made me seem guiltier. But what else could I do? I couldn't let him take my child for a DNA test. If the results came out, Logan Wyatt would kill me. Why not? Feeling guilty, are you? Logan narrowed his eyes, that mocking little smirk curling at the corners of his mouth. His deep black gaze bore into me, and I felt panic rise inside. Still, no matter how hard he tried to corner me, I couldn't afford to give in. Guilty? Why would I be guilty? My son has nothing to do with you, so there's no reason for me to feel guilty. My ex-husband probably looked like you. Yeah, now that I look closer, I can see the resemblance. My son just takes after him, so if he looks like me, it's purely coincidence. As a comic artist, I've always had a vivid imagination, and today I was squeezing every last drop of it. Logan's face darkened at my words. He looked even colder than before, his eyes sharp with menace. What did I say to offend him? I was just telling the truth. Okay, maybe not quite. Where is this ex-husband of yours? Dead. I said it plainly, without blinking. Better to fake his death than risk Logan going after a man who doesn't even exist. In that moment, I was thoroughly impressed with my own IQ. How did he die? Logan asked, frowning again. Seriously, not even the nosiest neighborhood aunties pry this much. Climbing accident. Fell off a mountain, no body ever found. As soon as the words left my mouth, Logan stared at me, a smirk tugging at his lips. But for some reason, I found that smile spine-chilling. What? Was me losing my fake husband supposed to be funny? You think I'm an idiot, he suddenly said, switching topics, but with the same deadly serious face. I scowled. Who asks something like that straight-faced? Was he feverish or just losing his mind? Still, I answered calmly, "You don't look like an idiot, but that question sure was stupid." For a moment, Logan just glared at me, his face falling into a grim shadow, like I genuinely pissed him off. But hey, I was just being honest. He took a deep breath, then his voice dropped low. "Claire Evans, even if you refuse to admit that Noah is my son, I will find a way to prove it. Right now, he's under my care for military training. You can't stop me." That was a warning. He was forcing me to admit it, dangling the threat like some twisted plea bargain. It worked. I was terrified. My spine turned cold. I even started wondering whether I should flee again, start over in another city. But Logan somehow read my thoughts. "Claire Evans, don't even think about running again. You managed to disappear 5 years ago, but 5 years later, you won't get away this time."
His words dragged me back into the memories of my escape 5 years ago. To be honest, I never wanted to revisit that time. That year, I lost both of my parents and became an orphan. It was 5 years ago, during the national holiday. My family had taken a road trip, and we were caught in a devastating landslide. At the moment of the accident, my father tried to swerve the car to safety, but a massive boulder struck him directly. My mother held me tightly in her arms. The last thing I saw before blacking out was her blood. When I finally woke up in the hospital, my grandparents tiptoed around the truth. They said vague things, probably afraid I would fall apart. But you can't hide fire with paper. I eventually found out everything. When I saw my parents at the morgue, their bodies were covered in injuries. There wasn't a single intact part. I knew then they died to protect me. I was the reason they were gone. If they hadn't tried to save me, maybe they would have lived. Every day after that, I lived drowning in guilt. Every single day, I missed them so much it hurt to breathe. I stopped eating. My body wasted away. Relatives took turns watching over me, afraid I'd do something drastic. And the truth is, I tried. I attempted to take my own life twice. Both times stopped just in time. In the end, it was my cousin's slap that woke me up. When starvation didn't kill me, he stormed into Grandma's house and struck me across the face. "Claire Evans, look at yourself. Is this what your parents protected you for, so you could try to die? If you wanted to die so badly, they shouldn't have risked everything to save you. Look at Grandpa and Grandma. They cry for you every day. You want them to die from heartbreak too?" He dragged me into the living room, made me face them, their tearful eyes pleading with me. "Claire, we already lost your parents. We can't lose you too. I'm begging you, live. Live for them. Live for us." From that day forward, I stopped wanting to die. Though the pain inside never truly left, I forced myself to smile in front of everyone. I didn't want to hurt my family anymore. After taking 2 months off, I returned to school. Graduation was approaching, but mentally, I was still a mess. I barely went through the motions of attending classes and was on the verge of not being able to graduate. Back then, I used to hide away in the library, not to study, but because it was quiet. Sitting there alone gave me a strange sense of comfort.
I always sat in the furthest corner, and I came so often that it basically became my unofficial spot. About 2 weeks in, something changed. Day after day, I'd find a small slip of paper on my desk. Each one had a little joke written on it. Those jokes accompanied me all the way to graduation. They were tiny bits of sweetness that colored my otherwise miserable life. On the day I graduated, I visited the library for the last time. A note was still waiting for me on the table, but this time it wasn't a joke. Just keep your head up. The view outside the window is more beautiful than you think. A simple sentence, but I've never forgotten it. As I left the library, one of my dorm mates suggested we go out to celebrate graduation. Maybe it was the power of that final note, but I agreed to go. All 5 classes from our major gathered at the same party. Coincidentally, Ethan Carter was sitting just one table away. I overheard someone say he'd be joining the military after graduation, and that he was planning to confess to someone he liked. But I didn't catch the details. The truth is, I had a crush on him too. I mean, he was handsome and smart. Who wouldn't fall for a guy like that? But ever since my parents passed away, I'd buried all those kinds of feelings. Toward the end of the night, I went to the restroom, and as I turned the corner, Ethan, tipsy and unsteady, pulled me into a tight hug. I couldn't break free. At that very moment, a thought struck me. Losing my parents had left me aching for someone who shared my blood. Ethan was about to join the military. We had graduated. There'd be no chance of running into each other again. Everything lined up. So I took him to a hotel, and what happened next happened naturally. While he was still asleep, I fled. I was afraid he might try to find me, so that very night I booked a flight out of Riverdale. Maybe the heavens took pity on an orphan like me, because just like that, I hit the jackpot on my first try. My son was heaven's gift to me. Those months of pregnancy were some of the happiest of my life. I knew my parents would have been overjoyed if they were still around. Slowly, life got better. For the past 5 years, I raised my child on my own. No matter how hard it was, I was truly deeply happy. No one knows better than me how precious it is to have someone who shares your blood. I thought life would continue peacefully for me and my son. But fate decided to throw a twist, and I came face to face with his biological father. Claire Evans, why did you leave that night without saying a word? Ethan's deep voice pulled me out of my memories. I looked up, meeting those soul-searching eyes of his. Then his lips parted, and the words that came out left me completely stunned. That night after graduation, I knew it was you.
I froze, as if my body had been paralyzed. How could Ethan Carter know what happened that night? Wasn't he completely drunk? But the look in his eyes, he wasn't lying. Ethan stepped around the desk and began walking toward me. The moment he came close, I snapped back to my senses. What nonsense are you talking about? I have no idea what graduation night you're referring to. I forced my racing heart to calm down and denied everything quickly and firmly. As long as I didn't admit it, there was nothing Ethan could pin on me. But the way he furrowed his brows made my stomach churn. I couldn't stay here any longer, so I made up an excuse to leave. Mr. Carter, I have an emergency at home. I'll be going now. Goodbye. I practically vanished in a puff of smoke the moment the words left my mouth. God knows how humiliating and desperate that escape really felt. As I left the base, I passed by the kids still in the middle of their military training. They all looked like they were having a great time. But when I looked closer, I didn't see my son anywhere. That was probably for the best. It spared me the guilt. Sweetheart, I'm sorry for leaving you in the hands of a demon. but it's the only way Mommy can protect the peaceful life we have together. On the drive back, I went over every single detail of that night 5 years ago. I remembered running into him in the hallway by the restrooms. He was throwing up at the time, leaning against the wall, barely keeping himself upright. I called out to him several times, but he didn't respond at all. He was completely out of it. After that, I helped him to a hotel nearby. Even on the way there, he didn't react. No signs of awareness. Wait. On the bed, I do remember him mumbling something. I think he said something like, "Claire, Claire." Did he really say Claire? Oh my God. No way. It couldn't have been what I'm thinking, right? Back then, I was both scared and overwhelmed. I didn't really pay attention to what he said. I thought he was just reacting to pleasure or something. But now I realize he wasn't drunk. He remembered everything that happened. So what does he want from me now? Can I really leave my son with him?
As terrified as I was of running into Ethan Carter again, I still had to pick up my son after class. Leaving my child behind? I'd rather die. The moment I reached the gates of the military base, I couldn't help but sigh. What kind of messed up life was this that I had to show up here 3 times a day? I silently prayed that I wouldn't bump into Ethan again. Before long, the preschool teacher led the children outside. My son, being taller than most kids his age, was at the back of the line. The moment I scanned the group, I spotted him immediately. As soon as he saw me, he burst into a run. "Mom! Military training was so much fun today. The games were super cool too," he chirped excitedly, completely over the moon. It was clear this training really suited his hyper little self. I took his hand and led him toward the parking lot. "Tell me all about it. What games did you play?" "We practiced military drills, sang army songs, and climbed this huge ladder thing. There were so many fun things." Military training that good? Honestly, the tuition fee was totally worth it. Childhood should be full of joy, after all. I only wished that my one and only flesh and blood could always live this happily. He skipped along beside me, chatting with infectious excitement. "Mom, I have to tell you, our class has this super handsome teacher, like really handsome, super duper handsome." "Oh yeah?" I chuckled. "Handsome like how? Handsomer than you?" My son was usually the most narcissistic little thing when it came to his looks. If even he was calling someone else handsome, that teacher had to be ridiculously good-looking. "Totally handsome," he declared with utmost confidence. Then he looked up toward the parking lot, and suddenly his eyes sparkled like fireworks. "Mom, look, that's the handsome teacher I was talking about." I instinctively looked up. The moment my gaze met Ethan Carter, my heart sank straight into my stomach. Why, oh why, didn't I wear a mask today? My sweet child, you've doomed your mother. Bravo, bravo. "Mom, isn't he so handsome? Luca Carter, stop talking right now." I cut him off before he could say anything else. If he kept gushing, I was going to die of embarrassment right there in the parking lot. So, the handsome teacher my son was so obsessed with turned out to be none other than Ethan Carter himself. Was this some kind of freaky telepathic connection between blood relatives? Maybe I had snapped too sharply, but Luca looked up at me with these sad puppy dog eyes, clearly confused. But I had no time to feel guilty. I grabbed his hand and made a beeline to the car. First things first, evade Ethan Carter at all costs. But just as I opened the car door, a hand slammed down on it. "Claire Bennett?" Ethan's deep voice cut through the air. "What exactly are you trying to run from?" Turns out I couldn't outrun Ethan Carter. Maybe it's those long legs of his. "Mr. Carter, what a coincidence!" I forced myself to smile and look up at him, trying to act all casual and cheerful, but inside I was fuming. "I'm not running away or anything, just in a hurry to get home. My son said his favorite cartoon is about to start and he doesn't want to miss it." I thought I nailed the excuse. Flawless. solid. But my sweet, honest little boy was about to blow it. He looked up, confused. "Mom, you said I couldn't watch cartoons today, and our TV has replays anyway." My son had just exposed my lie in broad daylight. Beautiful, just beautiful. Guess I really did raise him right, to be brutally honest. Too honest. Ethan looked at me, the corners of his mouth twitching into a smile. His eyes said it all. "Keep talking. I'm watching you make this up." Haha, kids say the funniest things. I chuckled awkwardly. Before my son could say another word, I covered his mouth and shoved him into the car. God help me. Maybe it was time to go home, pack everything, and vanish. "Claire Bennett? Mr. Carter! Wow, you bought a lot of stuff. That looks heavy. You should take it inside before your arms fall off." I cut him off before he could finish. He was carrying a mountain of bags, probably supplies for the base, yet here he was standing outside trading jabs with me like the weight didn't matter. "It's not heavy, and I'm not in a rush," he replied calmly. "Yeah, well, I am. Ethan, I've really got to go. Something urgent came up. Let's talk later, okay?" I tried to push his hand off the car door, but he didn't budge. I was using all my strength, and he didn't even flinch. Guess that military trading really paid off. "Ethan Carter!" I snapped, half annoyed, half desperate. My poker face was gone. This was the real, frazzled me. He suddenly smiled. Seemed like he was in a good mood because he finally pulled his hand away. I didn't know what I had done to make him smile like that, but I didn't have time to figure it out. The only thing that mattered now was getting the heck out of there. I jumped into the car and slammed the door shut, or tried to, at least. Just then, his voice floated through the small crack. "Drive safe." So gentle, so soft. It echoed in my mind the entire drive home. Even after I parked the car, my chest still felt restless. At home, I paced back and forth in the living room, replaying everything that happened today. Ethan Carter suspected Luca was his son. No, he didn't just suspect. I was sure he knew. And if he had no morals, he might yank out a strand of Luca's hair at any moment for a DNA test. He wasn't going to let us go. Would he fight me for custody? The thought of Ethan taking my son away sent me into a panic. I stomped my foot like a frightened bird facing a crooked branch. "Nope, we're leaving, now. Sweetheart, go get your suitcase. Start packing your clothes." We had to leave. Even if it meant starting from scratch somewhere else, I couldn't let Ethan Carter take my child away. Luca blinked at me, bewildered. "Mom, where are we going?" "To Auntie's house. You've missed your cousin, right? I'm taking you to visit." In truth, I was planning to hide out at my cousin's place, then find somewhere safer to settle down. Once we were packed, I loaded Luca into the car and drove towards the airport. But the moment we reached the front gate, someone stepped in our way. "Claire Bennett, running away again, are we?" Ethan Carter? The sudden appearance of Ethan froze me in place. Why was he here? His eyes blazed with fury as he stormed up to me, grabbed the suitcase from my hands, and clenched his fists, veins bulging on his arms. "Claire Bennett, where do you think you're running off to now? Planning another 5-year disappearance act?" His anger made my guilt bubble to the surface. I'm not running," I mumbled, clearly unconvincing, even to myself, let alone to Ethan Carter, who probably had a genius-level IQ. "You're not running. Then what's with the suitcase?" He grabbed my wrist, voice rising with frustration. Just as I was scrambling for a believable excuse, a small voice chimed in. "We're going to Auntie's house. Mommy said we're visiting my cousin." Luca, my little hero, stepping in at just the right moment like the true blood relative he was. I silently vowed to buy him every toy he wanted for the next month. "Right, we're just going back to my hometown for a bit," I added quickly, backing up his story, while trying to pull my wrist from Ethan's iron grip. But he wouldn't let go. His eyes were fixed on me, intense, piercing. "Ethan Carter, do you even believe what you're saying?" "No, not even a little bit. You saw me this morning, and now you're leaving by evening? If that's not running, then what is?" His words felt heavy, piling on pressure without giving me space to respond. I bowed my head, unable to argue. Then, after a long silence, Ethan let out a tired sigh. "Claire, can we just sit down and talk?" His voice sounded defeated, but beneath it, I heard something even more disarming. Pleading, a quiet vulnerability. That's not possible, right? Ethan Carter, the golden boy, pleading? Maybe I was just imagining it. In the end, I let him into the apartment and led him upstairs. "Have a seat. I'll just go help Luca put away some clothes." I gestured to the sofa, though he was still clutching my suitcase like I might bolt at any second. "Really now? I mean, you're already in my house. Where could I even go?" I rolled my eyes, said nothing, and guided Luca back to his room. "Mom, aren't we going to Auntie's anymore?" My poor kid was still in travel mode, oblivious to the emotional storm brewing. "Not today. I'll take you another time. Luca, be a good boy and play with your Legos for a bit. Mommy needs to talk to someone." After leaving him with his toys, I walked back into the living room. There Ethan was, sitting on the couch, still gripping my suitcase like it was a hostage. Was that really necessary? As soon as I stepped in, he stared at me like I might morph into a thief at any moment. "Ethan Carter, how about you let go of my suitcase so we can actually talk?" I tried negotiating, but he didn't move a muscle. "And if you run again, what am I supposed to do?" he asked, voice low, laced with something between desperation and determination.
His deep eyes pinned me down. It felt like a quiet assault on my soul. I had no choice but to shut up and shift the subject. I sat down on the sofa as far away from him as possible. Sitting too close made my heart race uncontrollably. "Say what you came to say." At this point, if I didn't face it head on, there would be no real end to this. His lips parted, and in that low, serious voice of his, he asked, "Is Luca my son?" It wasn't really a question. It was a statement waiting for confirmation. I dug my fingers into the sofa, took a deep breath. There was no point in denying it anymore. "Yeah." I lowered my head, unable to look him in the eye. How could I tell him the truth? That I stole his genes for selfish reasons, because I was desperate for someone who shared my blood. I couldn't say it out loud. No matter what angle you looked from, what I did was morally wrong, but I didn't regret it. "Claire?" he began again. What now? Was he going to take my son away? My body tensed. I stared at him, every fiber of me on high alert. "Ethan Carter? Don't even think about taking my son. He may have your DNA, but he's my child. You have no right to take him from me." I snapped, my voice rising with fury. My eyes glared into his, daring him to challenge me. I wouldn't let anyone take my child away, not even his biological father. If Ethan insisted on fighting me for custody, I would go to war with him. "Claire, please, don't be upset,"
I'm not trying to take him, I swear. Can you just hear me out for a second? His tone softened immediately, trying to calm me down, gently, patiently. When he promised not to take Luca away, my heart finally loosened its grip. The surge of panic ebbed, but I still kept my guard up. He scooted closer. I instinctively tried to slide away, but he grabbed my hand, firm, unrelenting. His gaze locked onto mine, warm and heartbreakingly sincere. Claire, I wasn't drunk that night. I knew it was you. That's why that night happened. When I woke up, I went to your house to find you, but you were gone. I waited outside your building for a whole week. You never came back. I asked your relatives. They only said you'd gone far away. No one knew where. I begged friends, called everyone I could think of, searched everywhere, but there was nothing. Then I joined the military, but I never stopped looking for you. Claire, I've been looking for you for 5 years. Each word hit like a thunderclap. I was stunned, even started doubting if I'd heard him correctly. He knew it? Claire, I finally found you. Please, don't disappear again.
Ethan Carter was pleading with me in the humblest way possible. Every word he spoke was saturated with affection, with longing, with feelings for me. But why? I couldn't wrap my head around it. My mind was spinning, completely overwhelmed. Seeing my disoriented state, Ethan gently pulled me into his arms. He wrapped me in a quiet embrace and softly patted my back, offering silent comfort. After a while, I shifted, slipping out of his arms. Ethan, I called his name in a hoarse voice, but I didn't know what to say next. The revelation that he liked me, that he had been searching for me for all these years, had completely thrown me. But more than that, it stirred something deep, something indescribable. So someone had cared about me that much all along? Ethan, he said gently, I like you. I've always liked you. I'm so happy I found you. I don't want to fight you for our son. I just want the chance to take care of you. For 5 years, you've given birth, raised Luca on your own. I know it hasn't been easy. I admire you, and I regret not finding you sooner. Claire, will you let me try? Let me take care of you from now on. Ethan's confession was serious and sincere. Every word was filled with genuine emotion. And more importantly, he promised me he wouldn't try to take Luca from me. But my heart was a mess. I didn't know how to respond. Everything that had happened today, it was all too much. I never imagined I'd see Ethan Carter again, let alone hear him confess his feelings to me. I stayed quiet for a long time, then slowly lifted my head to look at him and said hesitantly, Ethan, give me some time to think. Of course, he nodded immediately, eyes filled with tenderness. Claire, take all the time you need. Just please don't run away again, okay? And don't shut me out of your life. Don't shut me out from caring for you and Luca. I want to make up for the 5 years I lost. His sincerity was so overwhelming, I couldn't say no. Okay, maybe I could try to imagine a life with him in it. In the days that followed, Ethan Carter became a regular visitor in our home. Every morning, he brought breakfast for me and Luca, then drove our son to his military camp. In the afternoon, he'd pick him up and stay to cook dinner for the two of us. He was incredibly attentive, bringing flowers and small gifts every few days. But I still hadn't told Luca who he really was. I decided that could wait a little longer.
A week later, one afternoon, I was sketching at home when I got a call from the kindergarten teacher. Hi, Luca's mom. Luca just got into a fight with a classmate. Would you mind coming to the military camp? My first reaction was, isn't Ethan Carter at the base?
Why didn't he handle it if our son got into a fight? Yes, I'll be there right away. The moment I hung up, I rushed straight to the base. By the time I got to the office, the other boy's mother had already arrived. She was yelling at the teacher, making a scene. Just looking at her, I could tell she wasn't going to be easy to deal with. Where are his parents, huh? Why haven't they shown up yet? Your son beats up my son and doesn't even apologize? Please wait a bit, Miss Lynn, the teacher replied gently. Luca's mother is on her way. She was trying to calm the woman down, and also shielding my son from her fury, likely worried she might lash out at him. I'm so sorry I'm late, Miss Lee. I knocked and walked in, making a beeline for Luca and pulling him into a hug. He didn't say a word, just sat there with a pitiful look on his face. My heart clenched. Miss Claire? Miss Lee began, but the other mother cut her off immediately. Oh, perfect, you're finally here. Take a look at what your son did to mine. Is this how your kid was raised? He's downright vicious. So, tell me, what kind of compensation are you planning to offer me, huh? I had glanced at her son when I walked in. His cheek was slightly red, sure, but there were no scratches, no blood. I felt guilty that Luca had hit someone, but this woman's thug-like attitude was impossible to stomach. Miss Lee, could you please tell me what exactly happened? I ignored the woman and turned to the teacher, trying to get to the root of the situation. Miss Lee didn't hold back. She explained the whole incident, unbiased and fair. The boys were playing together during recess. Everything started off fine, but then they began arguing, and that's when Luca hit Lynn. She hadn't even finished explaining when the other mother exploded again. Did you hear that? Your kid was the one who started it. He's violent. If he's hitting people at this age, what kind of monster will he be when he's older? You have to pay compensation. My son was unlucky to even be playing with a brat like yours. Her voice made my face go cold. I held back the urge to slap her across the face. I know my son. He'd never hit someone without a reason. I raised him. I know his heart. But since Luca did hit first, I had no solid defense. Miss Lynn, Luca hitting your son was his fault, and we sincerely apologize. Whatever compensation you need, I'll provide. But please, don't speak like that. They're just kids. These kinds of arguments happen. Let's not escalate it. I tried to keep things civil and resolve the matter peacefully, but she wasn't having it. She looked like she wanted to eat us alive. Normal? You call this normal? Your son hit mine. Do you even know how to raise a child? He's like this because of you. You're both trash. What else is there to say? She was exactly the kind of foul-mouthed woman you'd find screaming at people in alleyways. My face darkened. And then my son burst into tears in my arms. Mom, Lynn called me a kid without a dad. He said I don't have a father. He started it. He insulted me first. Luca sobbed, his little face flushed red with shame. I hugged him tightly, my heart aching in a way words could never describe. Don't cry, sweetheart. Mommy's here. I stroked his back gently, trying to soothe him. And just then, Lynn's mom sneered again. No wonder the kid's violent. He doesn't even have a father. Why give birth if you can't give him a proper family? That was it. Her words set me ablaze. How could someone talk like that to a child? Like mother, like son, both cruel and mean-spirited. I was about to lash out and curse her into the ground, but before I could speak, a cold, sharp voice echoed from the doorway. Who said he doesn't have a father? I'm his father.
Ethan Carter suddenly appeared at the doorway, stepping in beside Luca and me, standing protectively in front of us. I didn't know why, but the moment he walked up, I suddenly felt so much braver. Sorry, I stepped out to take a call. Is Luca okay? He bent down to check on our son, and only when he saw that Luca was unharmed did he let out a relieved breath. The kindergarten teacher looked utterly stunned when Ethan introduced himself as Luca's father, though honestly, maybe she wasn't that surprised, probably because father and son look so alike. Mr. Carter, are you really his father, or did this little seductress just rope you in and get you to say that? And of course, Lynn's mother had to open her mouth again, talking nonsense as usual, throwing accusations like darts. I was so furious, I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. "What's wrong with your mouth? Did you eat garbage for lunch?" She froze for a second, stunned, but then lunged at me. "You bitch, did you seriously just hit me?" But before she could lay a finger on me, Ethan stepped in and stopped her. "What are you planning to do?" she hissed. "You insult my wife and child? Maybe a slap is exactly what you deserve. I'm warning you, I don't hit women, but that doesn't mean I won't. Try saying one more word." His voice was ice cold, and just like that, Lynn's mom shut her mouth. She stared at him, scared stiff. Miss Lee, the teacher, finally stepped forward to calm things down. "Okay, that's enough. Everyone, please settle down. This was just a small conflict between kids. Let's not escalate it further." She turned to Lynn's mom. "Honestly, your child started this too. You need to teach him better. Mr. Carter is the school's military instructor. You can't have your son going around saying things like that." Even Miss Lee seemed worn out by this woman's dramatics. "So now the teacher's taking sides? What, are you just going to ignore the fact that Luca hit my son?" She tried to continue the argument, but Ethan's glare silenced her again. "Your child was hurt. We'll cover any medical expenses. But don't expect an apology, not when your son was the one who started it. Take your son to the hospital. Whatever the cost, send the bill to me." He said it with such cold finality that the woman didn't dare protest. Then, without another word, he scooped up Luca into his arms and grabbed my hand, leading us out. Before we left, he nodded politely to Miss Lee. "If she causes any more trouble, just send her to me." By the time I snapped out of it, he had already brought us to his office. I hadn't expected him to handle things like that, but honestly, I felt relieved. If anyone had forced my son to apologize, I'd have been livid. "I'm going to get some food for you two. Just relax here." He placed Luca gently on the sofa, gave my hand a playful squeeze, and stepped out. He knew I needed some alone time with our son. I smiled. He was so considerate. "Luca, can we talk for a second?" I sat beside him and wrapped him in my arms. "Mom?" He looked at me with red, teary eyes, still upset from crying. My heart broke, but I had to be firm. "Luca, I didn't ask you to apologize earlier, but I want to explain something to you. Hitting your friend was wrong. You can't use your fists to solve problems. If a classmate says something mean, you should tell me or your teacher." And in my heart, I added, "My reaction earlier wasn't right either. I set a bad example. I'll do better next time." "I understand, Mom. I was wrong. I won't hit anyone again." His apology was sincere, and I could tell he meant it. My sweet boy was always like this. I pulled him close again, hugging him tightly. This mother hadn't protected him well enough. A moment later, Luca whispered, "Mom, if something bad happens again, can I go talk to Dad? Is Mr. Carter really my dad?"
I looked into my son's hopeful eyes and knew I couldn't keep the truth from him any longer. Besides, what Lynn had said today made it painfully clear. My child did care that he didn't have a father. I used to believe that raising him alone, as long as I loved him enough, would be enough. But I'd forgotten that every child needs the love of a father in their childhood too. I had been too selfish. Now that his father was finally here, I could only hope Ethan would make up for what our son had missed. "Yes," I said softly, "he's your father." "You have a dad, Luca?
Don't let what that boy said bother you." As soon as I said it, Luca's little face lit up with pure joy. I smiled and gently ruffled his hair. It was clear now, my son adored Ethan Carter. Of course he would. The same handsome teacher he'd raved about on day one suddenly was his father. What kid wouldn't be over the moon? Right then, Ethan walked into the room, arms full of food. The moment he stepped through the door, Luca dashed over and clung to his leg, shouting loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear, "Daddy!" He froze. For a moment, he fumbled awkwardly, still clutching the food bags, and then quickly set everything down and pulled our son into a hug. "Dee," he looked up at me, eyes watery, voice choked. Just seeing him like that made my own eyes sting. "You are his father," I said gently. "He's your son. Calling you dad is only natural." All I wanted was for Luca to grow up with someone who would protect him. With Ethan in his life now, I knew he'd be so much happier. I missed my own dad too. Ethan stepped closer, one arm holding Luca, the other pulling me into an embrace. After I told Luca that Ethan was his father, Ethan really started making the most of the situation, taking our son on a mini tour of the whole training base that very afternoon. To everyone he saw, he introduced Luca as his son. I swear, if he had a megaphone, he'd have used it. I was starting to feel like the base was too small to contain how proud he was. While Ethan took care of Luca, I rested in his office, waiting to hear back from the teacher about Lynn's mom. She'd had taken her son to the hospital, and near the end of the school day, Miss Lee stopped by to see me. "Luca's mom, would you take a look at this?" She hesitated a little, then handed me her phone. It was a message from Lynn's mother, along with a copy of the medical receipt. The gist of it, they'd gone for a checkup, the kid had some minor injuries, and now she wanted us to pay for the meds. I looked at the prescription. It was all basic topical ointments, nothing serious. "Miss Lee, I'll transfer the money to you right now. Thank you for handling this." I sent the money without complaint. At least now, the whole situation could be considered resolved. Just as I was getting ready to leave, Miss Lee leaned in, curiosity twinkling in her eyes. "So, Mr. Carter really is Luca's dad?" I could tell she wasn't prying for any bad reason, just the usual gossip girls love. "Yeah," I replied, smiling faintly. "He was in the army for a while, so he didn't get to be home much." Miss Lee suddenly looked enlightened. She smiled knowingly and said, "That makes sense. The first day of training, I thought they looked alike. I got it right after all." With that, she waved goodbye and left, leaving me sitting there, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Even the teacher thought they looked alike. No wonder Ethan had called me right after that very first day he saw Luca. It really was obvious. Too real to ignore. After Ethan Carter's promotion, he practically took over the entire household, from picking up and dropping off Luca to grocery shopping and cooking. As for me, I was left completely free with barely anything to do. The relationship between father and son grew stronger by the day, and I could clearly see that Luca was happier than ever. As for the relationship between Ethan and me, he was careful never to bring it up, and I didn't mention it either. We simply took each day as it came. But at some point, he had quietly blended into our lives. The entire house now carried the warmth of his presence. At first, he'd just come over to do laundry, cook meals, and pick Luca up. Then, as if by accident, he'd stay late playing with our son, until one day he started staying the night. By the time Luca finished his 2-week military-style school orientation, our house was packed with the things Ethan had bought, and even more of his personal items. Just as I was thinking of bringing it up, he beat me to it. "Dee, I want to move in with you. It'll be easier to take care of you and Luca." His words caught me off guard. I'd grown used to a life with just me and my son.
So, naturally, I became defensive again. Just as I was about to decline, my son suddenly took his dad's side. "Mom, can Dad stay with us? My friends all live with both their parents." The look in Luca's eyes made it impossible for me to say no. "Dee, I won't push you. I just want to be near you and Luca." His gaze held so much tenderness, I couldn't bring myself to shut him out. The truth is, deep down, I longed for the warmth of a real family too. And so, Ethan moved into our home, initially sharing a room with Luca. At first, he only brought the essentials, but 2 months later, it felt like he'd moved his entire house into ours. Still, I couldn't be bothered to argue about it. That night, while I was working in my room, my editor suddenly messaged me, "Lucy, your new comic is blowing up, like seriously blowing up." I was so thrilled I practically jumped out of my chair. Unfortunately, my excitement made me slam into the table with a loud thud, pain shooting through my leg. Ethan, hearing the noise, rushed in holding a spoon, looking alarmed. "Dee, what happened? Did you hurt yourself?"
As soon as he entered, I threw myself into his arms, bubbling over with joy. "Ethan, it's happening! My comic is trending! It's famous now!" He froze for a moment, then smiled and pulled me into a tight hug, still holding the spoon awkwardly in one hand. "Congratulations," he whispered. "Dee, I'm so proud of you." It wasn't even his comic, but he looked genuinely overjoyed, clearly happy for me. In that moment, nothing else mattered. I felt truly happy. Later, I realized how ridiculous he looked hugging me with a spoon still in his hand. Flustered, I quickly stepped away. "Sorry, I just got too excited." But honestly, he was the first person I thought of when I wanted to share good news. Maybe it was because we'd been living together long enough now that he felt like home. He looked at me so gently, then kissed my forehead. "Dee, I really am happy. Thank you for sharing your joy with me. Thank you for letting me stay in your life." He probably wanted to say something even more romantic, but at that moment, we both smelt it. Something was burning in the kitchen. "Oh no, my food!" He dashed out to save dinner. I stayed behind, grinning like an idiot as I stared out the window, taking in the golden afternoon light and the faint smell of smoke drifting in from the kitchen. It had been 5 years since I lost my parents, and for the first time, I felt like I was finally home again. I shut my laptop, walked to the kitchen, and said to the man who was now stir-frying with intense focus, "Ethan, let's go back to Jong City this weekend. I want to take you to meet my parents." On the day we returned to Jiang City, Ethan wore a formal suit, polished and respectful. I understood what he was thinking, and I felt deeply moved by the way he took this visit so seriously. When we arrived, I led him to my parents' grave. The moment I saw the 2 photographs etched on the tombstone, tears began to flow. "Mom, Dad, I brought Luca to see you. This is Ethan Carter, Luca's father." Our son, bright and well-mannered, greeted his grandparents. His tiny hand gently held mine as he stood obediently beside me. Ethan stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Sir, ma'am, I'm Ethan Carter. I'm sorry it's taken me this long to come meet you. But I promise you, from this day forward, I'll take care of them both with everything I have. I'll make sure they're happy every single day. Please, trust me with your daughter and grandson." He spoke at length, every word a sincere vow to my parents. I sat beside him, silently listening, my eyes red with emotion. I could barely contain my tears. As we were getting ready to leave, Ethan turned to me, his tone serious. "Dee, can I call them Mom and Dad?"
His eyes were filled with hope and longing. I looked at my parents' pictures and thought maybe they would have wanted a son-in-law by now too. Yes, I nodded. I knew my parents would have been happy to see me finally building a family of my own, and I was happy to have Ethan by my side. It was as if something awakened in him. His voice trembled slightly as he addressed my parents. Mom, Dad, we're leaving now. Next time, we'll all come back together to visit you again. Bye, Grandma and Grandpa, Luca chimed in happily. After leaving the cemetery, we went straight to my old house. The moment I walked in and saw everything just as I remembered it, I felt a familiar sting in my nose, that old ache of nostalgia. It had been so long since I'd returned. After my parents passed, I hadn't dared to stay in that house alone. Every corner was filled with memories of them. Every detail brought them back. The laughter, the love, and the aching silence they left behind. Still, everything was spotless. I figured it must be my grandparents. They probably came by from time to time to clean. We had barely set our suitcases down when the doorbell rang. Cousin! I opened the door to find my cousin standing there, eyes wide with emotion. Dee, it's really you! I saw the curtain move and rushed right away. He lived just across the street, and apparently he didn't waste a second before calling the whole family. In less than an hour, the house was packed with aunts, uncles, and cousins, everyone buzzing with energy and excitement. While Luca got passed around from lap to lap, completely spoiled, Ethan, the new son-in-law, was surrounded and gently interrogated. They were practically digging into 8 generations of his ancestry. I looked around at the house, filled with laughter and chatter again after so long, and I couldn't hold back my tears. Mom, Dad, can you see this? I'm doing okay. I have a family of my own now. I have a son and someone who wants to stay by my side.
That night, after our son had fallen asleep, Ethan and I sat on the sofa watching TV. He held me tightly in his arms and didn't let go. Ever since I had confirmed his place in our lives, he seized every chance to hug or kiss me. Absolutely shameless, really. In his words, it was making up for 5 years of lost time. Well, being held in his arms was admittedly pretty nice. Ethan, let's pick a day and go register our marriage. Luca's household record is still under my cousin's address. Once we're officially registered, we can update it. I said it calmly, but my heart was pounding the whole time. But the joy in Ethan's eyes instantly put me at ease. He pulled me into his arms and spun me around. Dee, I love you. I finally get to be with you. I'm so glad I didn't lose you forever. His happiness was infectious. It filled me with joy too. Ethan, I love you too. Thank you for giving me a home. Before I could even finish the sentence, he kissed me. I was so lucky I didn't miss this chance. With both him and Luca by my side, my life finally felt complete. Greater than, greater than, greater than. 18. Extra chapter from Ethan's perspective. I'm Ethan Carter, Luke Diem Diem's college classmate. I first noticed her in class when a professor called on her. She gave the wrong answer, smiled sweetly, and apologized without an ounce of embarrassment. At that moment, I thought, how can someone be so adorable? She was truly her name personified, gentle and lovely. From then on, I started attending class more regularly. Every time I saw her smile, I found myself liking her more. Eventually, I became addicted. I would search for her figure on campus, and before I realized it, I had completely fallen for her. I had planned to confess my feelings before graduation, but then she suddenly took a 2-month leave. Her friend told me it was because something had happened in her family. Her parents had passed away in an accident. I was devastated for her. I wanted so badly to hug her, but with what right? If I'd known what was coming, maybe I'd be braver back then. When she returned, she had become quiet, no longer her bubbly self. It broke my heart to see her like that. I noticed she spent long hours alone in the library. So, to cheer her up, I started going there earlier each day, leaving a sticky note with a joke where she usually sat. I didn't expect anything, just hoped she might smile. For 2 months straight, I did that, and sat right behind her. If she had turned around, she would have seen me every day. On graduation day, I left her one last joke. She smiled, and she came to the party that evening. I was so happy I drank a little too much. I waited for her to come outside, ready to confess and tell her I wanted to be by her side. But then, something unexpected happened. She went to the restroom. I followed, pretending to be tipsy so I could talk to her.
Next thing I knew, she dragged me to a hotel. I tried to stop her, but she kept teasing me. I resisted until she started crying. Even then, her hands wouldn't stop, and in the end, I gave in. That night, holding her in my arms, I felt like I had everything. But when I woke up, she was gone. I rushed to her house, but it was already empty. I asked all our friends. I even asked her relatives. No one knew where she'd gone. I waited outside her home for a week, but not once did the lights come on. For 5 years, I lived with regret. I cursed myself for falling asleep that night. If I hadn't, maybe she wouldn't have run away. I joined the army. While serving, I kept asking people to help me find her, but nothing ever turned up. After my discharge, I opened a military training center for kids with a friend. One day, I saw a boy who looked exactly like me. I froze. I rushed to check his records. And there it was. Mother. Luck Diem Diem. I was overwhelmed. After 5 long years, I had finally found her. I couldn't wait. I called her right away. Even after the call ended, I stared at the door praying she would walk through it. And she did. She still looked just like she did 5 years ago. She hadn't changed. I wanted so badly to hug her and pour out everything I'd kept in my heart, but I held back. I didn't want to scare her away. Still, just a few questions confirmed what I had suspected. Luca was my son. I was beyond ecstatic. But she didn't admit it. She even pretended not to know me. Fine, I could wait. I waited 5 years. What's a little longer? After school, I saw them again. My son said I was handsome. My heart swelled. But as I watched her drive away, a sense of panic hit me. I followed the address listed in her records. Just as I arrived, I saw her dragging a suitcase. She was trying to run again. I was furious, but more than that, I was scared. So I forced her to come home with me. I told her everything, how I had loved her, searched for her, waited for her for 5 years. She realized I wasn't there to fight for custody, and once she saw my sincerity, she stopped running. From that day forward, I became part of her and Luca's life. Slowly, I took care of them both, gently, patiently, waiting for her walls to come down. The first time she hugged me, I was so overjoyed I burned everything in the kitchen. Then she brought me to visit her parents' graves. I was so nervous I nearly messed up my tie. At their resting place, I made a vow. I'll take care of your daughter and grandson for the rest of my life. I'll protect them. I'll give them the home they deserve. Eventually, we registered our marriage. I finally married the woman I had loved since college and got my son back too. She became pregnant with our second child. One day, she found a box and ran to show me. "Ethan, look! These are the sticky notes I used to get in college. Every day, someone left me a joke. I think they had a crush on me." She was beaming. I looked at the box and smiled. "Yeah, I've always liked you. You just realized it a little too late." Maybe pregnancy brain was real,
because even then, she didn't catch on that it was me. I felt a little hurt, I won't lie. But later, when she was in labor, she suddenly cried out, "Ethan, it was you who wrote those notes." And then she gave birth to our daughter, our little princess. Now our family was complete. Finally, I was able to give her the happy home I had always dreamed of. The end.